Welcome to Holly's Pandorium, featuring your host, psychic medium Holly Jordan.
Hey everybody, we're back. This is Holly from Holly's Pandorium, and we have a special guest today that I am extremely excited to hear from. We don't get to talk about ET subject matter very much from anything beyond a very distant exposure. I've only had a few people I've spoken with that had more direct contact and more specific experiences. So this guest we have here, I have not heard her story, so we get to hear them together for the first time, so I'm very excited. This is Karen Holton. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. I'm really excited to be here and to share my experiences with your audience. I think the more we share, the more people are familiar, and then they're not shocked or surprised or afraid, and that's what we want. We want everyone to be very grounded and keep their critical thinking skills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So would you mind sharing with us how this all got started for you and kind of talk about, and then where you are today?
Okay, thank you. Well, it started in childhood. I didn't know that I was different. I thought everybody was like me, except when I would try to talk about it or tell my family about it, they would super make fun of me, warn me, oh my gosh, don't tell anybody. If you do, they're going to think you're crazy, and then they're going to think the family's crazy. But I'll just give you some examples of what happened to me. So first of all, I had in early childhood and other times in my childhood some very traumatic experiences. I'm not going to talk about those so much today, but I want to tell people who've had trauma in their lives that there is another side on the other side of the rainbow. And so what I believe in my case was that my horrible experiences opened me up for psychic and paranormal experiences, because it kind of knocks us off our programming a bit and opens us up. And we need the help, we need the help. And so one experience I had was shortly after my mother remarried, had long since divorced my father and remarried. And the stepfather, he was really, really cruel. And I'm not sure if it's because of the way he was or if it was me or what, but at night I'd be so afraid. I was so afraid. And I would tuck under the covers and I wouldn't hardly be able to breathe. I couldn't let my fingers stick out or a toe or nothing. I was like so afraid.
Wow.
At the same time, I was really aware that there were unseen beings or forces or creatures that other people didn't seem to be able to see. So after that happened, I don't know how long, because I was, like 5 years old at the time. I can remember I just was so afraid, and I wasn't praying. I didn't have the concept at that point, but I did, I guess, project it out there. And a being appeared to me, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I didn't find out till I was in my 20s what it actually looked like, which was a griffin. It had the head and the wings of an eagle, and it had the body of a lion, except my griffin was not what we would expect to see in a real creature. It was all made of fire. It was all made of fire. I have an image actually in my book that I'll hold up and show everybody. But anyway, the griffin communicated with me telepathically and told me that sorry, I'm just looking for it while I'm talking.
That's
told
okay.
me that it was there to protect me. And whenever I became afraid, no matter what, that it would be there for me. And so that's how I was finally able to feel safe enough to go to sleep at night. And
Wow.
it was a beautiful experience. I wasn't afraid. Since then, I've come to see it in possibly different ways. Like, for instance, here's an image. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up.
Oh, sure.
It's a black and white image.
Sure.
and it represents, it's AI generated. I apologize for that, but you know,
Okay.
I'm not really an artist, so I needed images, so I did that.
Sure.
But anyway,
That's fair.
so I had this amazing griffin, and I was able to call on. I didn't know what it was, like I said, until my 20s, and then I was looking through a book that had like fantasy images and stuff, and I went, "Oh my God, there's my griffin!"
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so I knew that it was something,
Sure.
and so I had that. I had other weird experiences, like even when I was younger than that. I remember I was sitting on the toilet. I know too much information, but I was sitting on the toilet, and the floor had these big checkered tiles, black and white. And I can remember looking over, and I saw the edge of it starting to sort of warp and kind of, I don't know, there was something going on. So I kind of concentrated and really looked at it. And the next thing I knew, the floor started to undulate like waves. And the more I looked at it, the more active the floor became. And finally we got to the point where I got scared, or wasn't comfortable with it. Boom, it just went all flat again. And I also was able to do remote viewing. And I remember one time my older brother locked me in a closet and said, "Okay, if you think you can see through things." I thought I could see through things. I didn't realize it was remote viewing, right?
Okay.
And he and my other brother were out there playing. And finally, when he let me out, I went, "Yeah, I saw you doing this, this, and this." And they just laughed at me and told me how stupid I was, um, unfortunately. But so that was sort of some of the things that happened in my early childhood. Later on, I was able to do things like see things from the perspective of other animals. Like, for instance, one time I was at a place called Stodom Falls, and it had these big flat rocks and these really shallow rapids. And it's a very beautiful place. And I was lying on one of these rocks on my back looking up, and I saw this eagle flying around high above me. And I went, "Oh my, I wish I could see through its eyes." And boom, I got a flash of me down on the ground on the rock. And I went, "Wow, what was that?" And then I decided I wanted more of it because I loved it. And actually, throughout my life, I've done that several times where I have been able to see things from the bird's perspective. Can't explain how it works, why I can do it. And then one other thing I want to tell you is, one time, this is after I was grown up and on my own, and I have a cat, and there was a little ambient light in the room coming in from the street lamp, but basically the lights were off, and my cat just started going nuts under my bed. And I thought, what the heck is she looking at? Like, this is how easy it is for me. It's not like I have to concentrate and practice and try to do it. No, it just
Right.
spontaneously happens for me. And I
Mm.
saw through my cat's eyes, and apparently didn't know this, but based on my experience, is that cats can pick up things we can't normally see. So there was a big spider under my bed, and spiders have this pigment that we don't pick up on. Well, we pick up some of it, but the cats could see, and it looked like neon stripes and spots that made the spider very, very visible. And as the spider
Mm.
was scurrying around, my cat was going nuts chasing the spider. So those are the kind of experiences that are just sort of part of my normal. Sorry, I got the sun shining in. I forgot to shut
No,
the curtain.
that's okay. That's okay.
So that is some of my experiences. I also found that when I was under times of high stress, I also tended to have visions and see things and have lucid dreams. So I just want to clarify, in my reality, I know they say there's only one reality and we all have different perspectives, but whatever. In my
Yeah.
reality, um, I find a couple interesting things. First of all, I have these really strong abilities, but I can't always make them happen. Like, for instance, if I was in front of an audience or something, I probably would be nervous and I wouldn't be able to do anything at all, mediumship or anything. But when I'm just going about my life, it's like spirit or source energy or universal consciousness or whatever makes these amazing things happen for me. So as long as my ego's not involved, it's amazing. And I just agreed to do the work as it's presented because that gives me a sense of purpose and a mission. I also want to clarify that in again, my little world, I see remote viewing, astral projection, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, lucid dreaming. Did I already say that? I'm not sure. But I see it as all facets of the same phenomenon. I don't see it as separate skills or separate things. And so sometimes it's hard to even distinguish between, now, was I remote viewing or was I lucid dreaming? Because I get a lot of lucid dreams while I'm awake even. I'll just kind of, I can't explain it. It's like I'll be sitting there watching a show or, heaven forbid, talking to somebody, and then boom, it's just I have this lucid dreaming until it plays out, and then I'm back. And it's not like I'm directing it. It just sort of happens. So that's sort of how things got started for me, those kind of experiences. And, I don't know, I got tired of being labeled as either crazy or evil. So I went to a lot of churches trying to find answers, and I got told, oh, no, don't be doing that. You're inviting dark forces into your world. You're opening yourself up for Satan, or don't do that, or people are going to think you're crazy, and then they're going to stigmatize you, and they're going to shun you, and it's going to have a bad effect on the family. So, oh, well. That's
So how old do you think you were when you finally felt more comfortable in your own skin, so to speak, with all these things going on?
Oh, unfortunately, very late in life. Oh, because first of all, I'm going to confess that as a young adult, I ended up joining the Jehovah's Witnesses, and there was zero tolerance for any of this. And so I think in a way, part of the appeal was that it would make it stop. You know what I mean? And so I was extremely, very, very suppressed. And after 17 years, I left that, but I also come from a very dysfunctional, controlling family. So it really wasn't until my mother died. She died actually Halloween night in 2016. And my stepfather had already passed away. And it wasn't until then that I started giving myself permission to come out of the closet. So I've been extremely suppressed and closeted. And then in 2000, I had an angelic experience in the mid-90s when I was in crisis, which is often when we have these more spiritual experiences. And then it was in 2014, I had my ET experience. And then it wasn't until 2017 that my guides, which are my invisible mentors, for lack of a better term, started telling me, Karen, you got to come out of the closet. It's time. Now is the time that you got to come out. And so I started coming out then. So I know it sounds like a gay story. I don't mean that derogatorily.
No,
I'm just saying.
I know what you mean.
It's similar in the process.
No, I can completely understand what you're describing because I went through the same thing. I too felt like I was having spiritual type of experiences. They were very enlightening. I felt amazing. It felt very positive until I spoke to others about that. And I too felt like, the reaction from Christian friends or even Christian leaders was not warm and fuzzy. In fact, I had a gentleman walk up to me in a church in the early 2000s, and he was the first person that I think ever really gave me some serious and genuine peace of mind other than my mom. And he said he didn't know me. We'd seen each other across the pews, for maybe a week, of Sundays. And he just walked up to me and he just tapped my shoulder with his two fingers. And he said, you see things other people don't see all the time and you never talk about it. You really need to. And I went, I felt exposed. I might as well have been standing there completely naked. I felt
Mhm,
so exposed, even though my logical brain knew no one else heard what he said. He was the
mhm,
only person near me, and it still was terrifying because it was the big secret. You don't tell, you
mhm,
don't talk, you don't act, you don't nothing comes out, but on my own, I too was having a ton of experiences and reveling in them and feeling more alive and more aware, and the world was a bigger, more beautiful place with these experiences. And so now
mhm.
in my 60s, I've had a podcast for 4 years, and I finally get to tell more people, "Guess what? There's so much more out there, and it's amazing, and you don't have to be scared. It's okay." So,
Mhm.
I love that you're doing what you're doing. I think it's amazing. So,
Oh, thank
kudos.
you.
I'm
Thank
very
you.
excited.
Thank you. Should I tell you briefly about my angelic experience, or you want me to get right into the ET?
Whatever you wanna do.
Okay, well, I think the angelic experience set me up for the ET experience. So I'll just very quickly tell you, well, not too quickly, but I'll tell you what happened. So I was in a very deep state of grieving. Long story short, I had been married, divorced, he had remarried. And then when the children were just getting in, not quite, I guess later elementary school age, he said he and his wife wanted a chance to raise the children, and he didn't approve of me, which didn't surprise me. And so they went to live with him. I let them go because I thought it would be a chance for them to reunite their relationship with their dad. I saw it as being, that I had to make that sacrifice out of my love for my children. Turned
Right.
out he basically made it so I didn't. He wanted me completely out of the picture, and I was grieving. I was really grieving. I was so upset. Now, turns out the place I moved into, ever since I moved in there, and I was at this low point of grieving, I started getting overwhelming urges to off myself. Now, I just want to fast forward 2 years later. I met her, obviously, I didn't. 2 years
Right.
later, I met a woman, and she asked me where I lived. And I told her, and she says, "Oh my God, I know the mother of the man who killed himself while living in that house." And she told me how he
Oh,
did it. And he did it in a very specific and little bit odd way, which was exactly what I was getting the urge to do 2 years
wow.
earlier, getting back to my story. So what I think happened is I was in this really vibrationally low state of grieving, and I think that attracted the energy, residual energy left in the home by the guy who had offed himself.
Yeah.
So, but the night before I was going to do it, it was the middle of the night. I was bawling my eyes out. I just could not cope without my children. I know it sounds sad, but it was totally true for me.
Yeah.
And I had all of a sudden, I wasn't asleep. I wasn't lucid dreaming. I don't know how it happened. I don't know the mechanics, but all of a sudden, I saw what looked like 1,000 points of light in my field of vision. Each point flashed light out the sides like wings, which is why I call it angelic. And I heard a voice, and it was like 1,000 voices all speaking in perfect unison as one voice. And it asked me why I was planning to off myself. And I said, because I feel ripped off. Life is supposed to be more than just pain and suffering. And what about what I want to do? And what about having a mission in life and doing some good? And they said, well, you actually can off yourself, contrary to a lot of religions. My angelic presence told me that there are exit points. If it gets too rough, you can exit, and there's no shame in that, and it's never held against you. In fact, there's nothing we can do that can make the angelic and spiritual realms, universal consciousness, Holy Spirit, if you want to go there, nothing we can do can make them reject us. We are loved unconditionally in a
Yeah.
way we can't even imagine. And it, thousand voices is one, said to me, if you want to stay, we'll give you a helper. What would you like? And I went, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I have no idea what I need, what I want. Can
Right.
I think about it? And they said, of course. when you're ready, just tell us. It's that simple. So our
Yeah.
spirit guides are that close all the time, 24/7, even when we think we're alone. Like there's really no need to be lonely even. But anyway, so I thought about it for a few days. I thought, if I had money, I could hire a lawyer. I could get my kids back. And I went, no, I just knew that wasn't right. This is going to make me cry.
It's okay.
Sorry. And then
take your time.
Maybe if I was famous and people really liked me and I was popular, I could get other people to help me get my kids back. And I went, no, I know that's not it either. And I went through a list of all kinds of things, some of them quite ridiculous, but this is just where my mind went. And finally, I knew what I needed. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, I don't know why it's hitting me so hard today.
It's okay.
What I needed was wisdom, because if I had wisdom, I could figure out my life. I could make it work. I could be a good person. I could have a life with value. And this is what I really wanted. So I asked, I said, I know the next part's really unbelievable, and I don't care. This is how it was for me.
That's okay.
So I said, I'd like wisdom. Wisdom, that's the gift that I would like. And the funniest thing happened. I heard a voice say to me, it was inside my head at this point, not outside of my head. It said to me, do you want the quick method or the slow method? And I thought, I didn't even think about it. I just said, I want the quick method. I thought they would just pour the wisdom into my brain and I'd be a smarter, better person. And nope, it doesn't work that way.
Nope.
So the slow method would have been a gentler path. And I asked for the quick method. And there have been days where I have said, Karen, you should have given it some thought, because I got the quick method. So it didn't mean my life was so great. It meant that I went through all kinds of intense experiences. But what was different, Holly, really different, is my perspective was now different. Mm-hmm. I could learn from every experience and glean so much that I couldn't before. And that's what I've done ever since. And I've just stayed right with it. And I do, what my intuition tells me to do, what my heart tells me to do, and what my guides suggest, which I mostly do, but not always, right. But mostly. And that's led to a series of events. I get into a bit of that in my book. And I had to make a lot of changes. I had to overcome a lot of addictions over the years. And some addictions, like, for instance, processed food was huge for me. I like to comfort through eating, refined carbs. I got high off of that. It really helped. But there came a time where it was devastating to my health, and I needed that level of health to rise up to hold the new frequencies that I now was capable of holding. So that's basically the angelic experience. And then a whole bunch of stuff happened. And then in 2014 was when I had my ET experience, which I'm hoping I can talk about next.
Okay. That would be wonderful. No, I do, but I have to say, without too much time to expose, but I have parallel experiences to you. And
wonderful.
And I definitely went through a point in my life where what I thought a good life was not at all the only chapter. And so my changes, as anyone will attest to, change is never comfortable, but it's constant. I've long adopted a saying that the only thing constant is change. And so when I thought that my going to church and my raising my kids was my life, and that was all it was going to be, and that was great, and I loved it, and then it wasn't, and there wasn't, and they weren't, and I completely lost my bearings. I had no idea which end was up. But I've learned similarly that the rest of the story for me was very unlike anything I ever imagined. And it's not only been enlightening, it's been liberating because I gave myself permission to engage the dynamic of my soul and life experience that I was always intended to have, that I
Yes.
denied for so long. And I almost feel like, my spirit and my spirit guides were like, finally, let the door open, let it swing wide open and just stay here. So my
Mhm.
interactions with my spirit guides are constant all day long.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they are so gracious and so loving, and we laugh
Mm.
and we poke fun
Mhm.
at each other, and they keep me grounded, but they also allow me to experience a level of life I didn't think was possible. I didn't even imagine it. So I'm very happy to hear your story because I can totally relate. I really can.
Thank
So
you.
I'm excited for you. I think that you've got a great journey ahead, and I can't wait to see more about it. So let's hear about your ET stuff. I can't wait. Let's hear it.
Okay, so I want to start by telling everybody that this is not your usual ET contact. I can't explain 100% how it happened. I theorize about it in my book. I was doing no drugs, no hallucinogens, no tobacco. I wasn't even drinking coffee. I wasn't smoking weed. So I want to be really clear about that.
Okay.
And it started one night and it happened every night for a 3-month period of our time. And then it abruptly ended. But let me tell you what it was like. There's a time dilation. And so while away, I could be gone for weeks, even months, come back, and it's the very next day. And so what happened was I didn't get picked up in a spaceship. I didn't have little gray men come and take me away. I didn't have anything like that. Initially, I just was there. I can't
Mhm.
explain it. And at first I thought I was dreaming, but the more I thought about it, the more I went, no, this couldn't be dreaming. First of all, my experiences were very physical. Second of all, my dreams don't make a lot of sense. It's like I could be trying to run and I'm not going anywhere, and I might be in a house with 1,000 rooms and I'm looking for my daughter. You know what I mean?
Sure.
They don't make any sense. They're
Right.
highly symbolic. This was an actual memory experience that happened every night. So that's why, I didn't even find out till later that it was transdimensional, which transdimensional means your ability to go in and out of interdimensional spaces. And the
Mhm.
more we learn about science and spirituality and all that, the more we see, oh, yeah, this is not only possible, this is all happening to millions of people. So here I am aboard this big ship. I get assigned a buddy. She takes me around. She's able to transmit telepathically to me, but I wasn't really able to do that to her at this point. So the other thing I wanted to say is there are millions of beings living aboard the big ship, and the big ship is not even the biggest. So it would be like what a lot of people think of as a mothership, very, very, very large.
Mhm.
There was no one kind of being. I have an image this side
Okay.
here.
Okay.
And it represents me with two of my ET friends. One looks very much like human. The other one looks a little more like what we would call a stereotypical gray.
Mhm.
All kinds of beings. And they come from many different dimensional realities. So I want everybody just to put on their imagination for a minute and imagine looking at a daisy that has over 100 petals. And imagine that each petal represents a spiritual realm, a different timeline, a different dimensional reality, a different way of frequency relating. It could be a different position in the multiverse. And they're all joined at the center. And that is interdimensional space. And that's where the big ship is. So it's not in Alpha Centauri. It's not in our solar system. It's not in our galaxy. It's in this interdimensional space. And that's where it sits. And so beings can come aboard and leave from all different realities. Very, very interesting. Nobody talks. Most ETs are very tidy around the mouth, and we come across as almost predatory with our saliva and our teeth showing, our mouth movements,
Right.
our different languages. There's none of that there. And so one of the first skills that I attempted to learn, well, I did learn, was telepathy.
Mhm.
And the way I learned telepathy was with the help of the big ship. So I'm going to ramble on a little bit
That's okay.
because I need to sort of cover certain things for you to understand what I'm going to say next. The big ship is alive. It's an actual physical being of itself. It has biological self-assembling nanoparticles. So it's telepathic. It knows what you need or want before you even have time to think about it, and it produces that for you. It's super, super cool. I cannot explain enough. It's in my book. I really hope you guys read my book because it will open your eyes to a whole different reality. So my buddy, she's absolutely beautiful, very peaceful, just very grounded, peaceful energy. They couldn't have selected anyone better for me. So she took me to my quarters, and she had me think about how I would sleep when I'm home. And I would think of, being on a bed. So then she just turned to the wall, and out came a platform, and like a mattress pad formed on it. And she motioned for me to try it out. And I went and I laid down. It was so comfortable. I went, oh yeah, I like this a lot, right? And then I was concerned, and she knew I was concerned, and she touched my arm, and I knew that she wanted me to tell her. So at this point, I'm using words. And I said to her, I have a kitty at home. Who's going to feed her? Who's going to love her? Who's going to look after her? Nobody knows I'm gone. And she just let me know through imagery that I would be back the very next morning of my time, and that I should just relax and experiment and enjoy this experience. And I trusted her, and I said, okay. And she sort of oriented me on all kinds of things to do, like what do we eat, where do we go to the bathroom, everything. Like I got all the details, all the nitty-gritty details in my book, because a lot of these things people are not addressing. I hear all kinds of people say, yeah, I got picked up by the Greys and we went off to Alpha Centauri and we checked out the moon, and then they brought me back, and then I got dressed and went to work. Not for me. Did not happen anything like that. In fact, when I woke up in the morning after being gone for a couple of weeks, so it's kind of like when I'm there, I'm not here, and when I'm here, I'm not there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it messed with my head. Am I crazy? Am I hallucinating? Did I imagine this? Was I dreaming? Like I had no idea. And I would think about what happened. I'd literally go and walk around my apartment with a cup of tea going, what the hell just happened? Like it was huge.
Yeah.
And then I'd go to bed at night and I'd pick up exactly where I left off, have adventures, wake up, and it was the very next morning. So there's a couple of differences. When aboard the big ship, I have amazing health. I feel fantastic. And I have the same body, but different. I don't have the imperfections that I have while here on Earth. And I also tried bringing some things back, and I couldn't. I couldn't bring things back. So I'm thinking that they actually have a way and have the technologies to take our consciousness and put it into another form, and experimented with a couple of other forms I wasn't comfortable with. And it didn't take too long before I got what I think might be a clone of my three-dimensional physical body that gave me the physical, the ability to be there physical. And So that was kind of what was going on for me. So I met all kinds of beings. I saw no monsters. I saw people that were very much like us, all different skin tones. It seems to be that beings that are from planets with plenty of sunshine, they often are brown or even what we would consider black. Beings who originated, whose ancestry was from planets that had less light or less atmospheric stuff. They had paler type skin. Some were kind of shades of blue, some were kind of shades of orange, but the vast majority of people are brown, just like here on Earth, which surprised me. Well, I shouldn't say surprised me, but I was expecting more extraterrestrial, stereotypical, looks.
Sure.
Oh, there's so much I will not have time to get into, but it was a very peaceful, beautiful environment. Getting back to the big ship. So what I did every day, in the beginning, I got a tablet. The tablets just look like they're made out of plexiglass or some kind of lightweight, transparent material, a little bit rounded edges, kind of squarish. No ports, no dials, no nothing, because it's, again, a telepathic interface between me and the big ship. Because at the beginning, I had to go with something I was more familiar with. Let's put it that way. And the images on the tablet could either be flat, like on our cell phones, or it could be very three-dimensional, like a holographic, that I could also look at. And then it wasn't long before I used what I call the virtual reality system. What that was just a thin band that went around my head and two little nubs that rested on my temples. And it allowed me to interface with the big ship. But that's just what I call it, the big ship. I don't have words. I don't even have concepts for a lot of this. So I'm trying awkwardly to put it into language that at least English speaking people can understand.
Sure.
I hope my book one day gets published in other languages as well. But so I would just spend, I don't know, we don't have time is not the same as here. We have cycles, but we don't have circadian rhythms or anything. We're on a big ship and interdimensional space. I got to tell you one really quick thing that's hilarious. Oh my God. So one time, remember I told you it took a while before I ended up with what I felt was my body. And so at one point I experimented, and one of the things I tried was to do a consciousness swap with another being who lives aboard the big ship. Many, many beings live aboard these huge, huge, massive ships. Like I said, some are as big as our planet, some are even bigger, right? Planets are not necessarily the safest places to live. And each big ship has its own culture and kind of political stance, and you kind of go where you're comfortable. Oh gosh, I'm getting off topic.
Okay.
So I'm trying to remember what my point was here. Oh,
the
sorry.
funny thing that happened.
Oh yeah. So anyway, so I guess I was only gone for a few days. You don't do the long stays when you're doing a body swap with the other being. It's good of them to offer it, But anyway, when I got back, I ran into somebody when I was out shopping, and he said, "Karen, where were you? I was worried about you. I knocked on your door. You didn't answer. You didn't answer your phone. I thought something happened to you." Well, I couldn't tell him. I was in interdimensional space, and I had done a body swap with an extraterrestrial. I mean, you can't tell the truth.
No.
Especially not to white people, strangely as that may sound. I couldn't, so I just said, "Oh, I was depressed for a few days and I didn't want to talk to anybody." That was the best excuse I could come up with. But
it's
I thought
the safest excuse, because
I thought that was
you must
funny.
distance yourself from. Well, yeah, no, that's totally fair. If you would have told him the truth, you probably would have scared him more than him being concerned about you being depressed by a long shot.
Yeah, he may have taken me to the doctor to get referred to psychiatric intervention, and I didn't want that.
Right.
So there was that. And telepathy, I go into detail in my book about the 4 stages of telepathy. You start off with really simple things like a circle or a triangle or a square, and you want to hold that in your imagination for 3 seconds, eventually 6 seconds, and then 9 seconds. That's the goal. And then you get, I don't know if it's a dopamine rush or what, but somehow I would get what felt like a warm virtual hug, a positive, this very physical, pleasant physical reaction when I got it right. And I just didn't get anything when I did it wrong. So it really, I liked to be right and to get it right, right?
Yes.
The other part of that is then the big ship creates an image in my imagination. Now, when you're using the virtual reality, that's why I would just be on my bed, because it's just like the real thing. You can't tell it from not using it. It's very, very real. So the big ship would create for me a scenario where I'd be in a room with some other beings, and then I'd be asked to transmit my thoughts to just maybe 2 out of a dozen beings, which of course I couldn't do. In the beginning, I would do what you would consider shouting to everybody. I was very sloppy. But the hardest part for me was to learn what they call shielding. Shielding is where you keep your thoughts and impressions and emotions to yourself. It's inappropriate to spread that all over the place. Just because you're miserable doesn't mean everyone else has to be. Or, if you're worried about whether your underwear is clean, like, you know what I mean? There's so many of our thoughts are kind of silly. And so we had to learn shielding. But there's 4 levels of telepathy training. And I talk about that in the book. And eventually I became proficient. I didn't think I'd ever get it. I really didn't think I was ever going to get it. But I kept trying, and eventually I got it. That led to improved and expanded social relations aboard the big ship with other beings. That allowed me to now start considering a career, training. Eventually, I ended up being involved in expeditions on other worlds that did not have humans or humanoids yet. So what I found out is there are more than billions. Like, my mind can't even go that far, how many inhabitable planets there are. But they have everything. They got fish and grass and trees and birds and bugs. They have everything, but no humanoids. Humanoids are settled onto them when they need to be, through either an intergalactic resettlement type program. But before that can happen, these expeditions are done so that we can gather data and find out the very best way to introduce humanoids, if at all, into that environment, because you cannot upset the biosphere. You have to take into consideration the animals, their habits, the weather. Everything has to be analyzed, taken back to the big ship, and then it's all incorporated. So our tablets don't just record data, they also record our perceptions, how we're perceiving the land and the water and the different things that are there. So I thought that was really interesting. So you go back to the big ship and it all gets incorporated into a learning environment that has these holographic images so we can do assessments, and very intellectual, but very interesting. And I loved it. I loved it. Eventually, I got to visit 2 very different worlds, a high-tech resettlement and also a very low-tech settlement. I get into great details about that in the book as well. And I tell you, but we don't have enough time. I just, it's not like, it's not, I'm not a rich woman, nor do I want to be. So yes, I want people to buy my book, but it's because I think they would love it. I have only 14 reviews so far on Amazon, and they're all 5 out of 5. So I'm not bragging that I'm such a great writer. No, I had such a great experience. And if this can happen for me, this can happen for other people. I'm going to pause now in case you want to talk. I'm sorry, I've been rambling on quite a lot here.
No, you're doing great. This is wonderful. I love that you got to have more than just a visitor situation with this connection that you have. Most of the experiences that I have heard are far more traumatic,
Yeah.
and there's this language and this perception, and all of it's very negative and scary. Um, Myself, when I look at your images, and for people listening, um, on this side of the screen behind Karen is an image of her with these two, uh, for lack of a better term, aliens that she experienced, and the one on one side of her looks a lot like a Palladian to me. And so I
Yeah,
actually
what we
had
would call a Nordic type.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yes.
So I actually have a Palladian that comes to visit me and
Hmm.
I interact with. And I don't talk about it very much because there's not an occasion to talk about it very much. But this is someone who is absolutely light,
Hmm.
absolutely there's nothing negative about her. She's absolutely all about love. She's all about kindness and information. She's very, very knowledgeable, and she's just comes and helps sometimes when I'm doing my
Hmm.
seances. Um, I have interactions with all different types of entities, and so I lost my fear of entities many, many years ago because I've seen so many, and
Hmm.
I'm so glad that you had this experience because a lot of times when you have your exposure is open and you're willing to see other things and you're open to see other things, you don't live in a case of fear. Um, you're actually able to be aware. I think if more people would just consider that just because something's different doesn't make it bad. That's such
Hmm.
a cave-like mentality. New is
Hmm.
bad, different is bad. We gotta get away from that. We really
Hmm.
do. So, I hope your book goes far and wide because we need it. We need to see other things as possible and not horrible. It needs to be
Hmm.
good because a lot of it is. Sure, there's scary things, and yes, of course, there's things that we should avoid, but not 100% of it by any means. There's a lot of
Hmm.
things that are very positive and extremely beneficial, for heaven's sakes. I mean, that's like saying you'll never try an aspirin because you don't know what it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
You
Yeah,
won't know until you try, and it doesn't mean you're gonna
true.
lose your soul, you're not gonna lose your mind, um, but that's the scary part. The fear of the unknown is tangible to everyone. We all know that. We all know that, but I think too many of us live in it. So I love your bravery. I think you're an amazing human to be able to share these things and talk about it. I think it's fantastic. So
Oh, thank you. I actually believe that I have made pre-birth agreements because my life has fallen into sync and to get me where I am today so beautifully. And I think the reason I had my ET experience was to write my book to tell other people. So there's another component to this I really just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about, and that's the
sure.
concept of love. So these beings are not millions of years ahead of us. They are at our next stage of development. And I think that's really important because we can have the kind of culture and health that they have if we want to stop war, fighting, all the separations. Oh my God, like if it isn't the color of your skin, it's your religion. If it isn't
Right,
that, I mean, even with the LGBTQ community, which you think is sort of unified, no, there's all these separate and just keeps getting more
right.
separated all the time. And we need to overcome that and see that essentially we are all one. and
Yeah,
and then as soon as we get there, we'll start to treat ourselves and each other a lot better. But on earth, most people don't even understand what love is. So the
yeah.
beings that I had my experience with, I say they vibe on the love harmonic, and there is an actual harmonic, a frequency to what love is. But love is not just warm, fuzzy feelings for someone we're somewhat attracted to. Love is like a basket, it includes so many things like
Yes.
patience and mildness, kindness, mercy, and on and on. I get into great detail that also in my book because this is This is what my ET friends have learned long ago, and they've put away the jealousies and the competitiveness. It's so peaceful to be around them. There's no deception. And once you open up telepathically, which I believe all humans have the ability to do, it's a technology, which again goes back to we need to take care of our health so that we can use these technologies. And they're just so beautiful. There's no deception. It's so incredible that, to be honest with you, once I accepted that this was happening, and I was out, on Earth in the 3D doing my grocery shop. I look around, I see how unhealthy people are. I'm going, oh my God, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with humanity. We need to figure this out.
Right.
And then I would be back with my friends, not to mention that when I would wake up in the morning here in my 3D reality, I had all my aches and pains and imperfections and everything was back. So of course, I loved being aboard the big ship. But there's a time dilation, and I had like 3.5 years of experience all in that every night for 3-month period of our time. So you can imagine how full my head was with all the memories, all the concepts, the new things I was being taught. And to be honest with you, it messed me up for quite a while. I became a recluse. I'm still a recluse. I love being a recluse. Now I love it. It's not that I don't like people. It's just that I'm extremely sensitive and so tuned in. When I'm around people who can also be loving and peaceful, I'm fine. But most people have not quite got there yet. But I've been assured that there are millions and millions of humans alive today who are having the same transdimensional experience as me, but they don't remember, and they don't remember for a number of reasons. One is it messes up your life, and also it can interfere with your soul evolution, which is why I believe why we're here. And also it might not be safe. There are powers that be, I won't get into politics, but there are powers that be who do not want us awakening, because once we awaken, and let me just tell you what I mean by awakening and ascension. Awakening is when we realize the world is not what we thought it was. We realize that we're in a construct. We realize most of it is not to our benefit, and then you have to deal with the shock and awe. You have to deal with the realizations, and that takes a little bit of work. Plus, I find that even I thought I was really awakened at one point. No, it just never ends, especially with, what's going on in the world today, right? Always new levels of awakening, and you got to deal with the shock and awe of all of that. Once you get regrounded after you see that, then you start to what I call ascend. And ascension is not leaving your body and going to God, from my perspective. What it is your ability to raise your frequencies. And what will happen is frequencies need to match. So low vibrational frequencies, they will flee, whether they're spirit form or whether they're in human form, whether they're in ET form. You're not palatable, whatever. You don't taste good to them. Right? So you raise your frequency, and then you start bringing in your amazing guides. And one of your most important guides, I believe, is my own higher self. So it would be your higher self. It's us in a higher dimensional reality, caring for us and helping us to go through and navigate. And of course, we have terrific effect on each other. And so this is my mission in life. And wow. What a joyful place I'm at now. I've got 3 podcasts that I'm doing. I've made so many wonderful like-minded friends. I have I love my friends so much. I've built a YouTube community, and it's also on Rumble because I use StreamYard, and you can stream, to both at the same time. Haven't heard much on X, but I stream there too. And I eventually met Chris Matthew, about, well, 6 years ago, and he asked me to join the Forbidden Knowledge Network. So I'm on that network as well. And I'm
Nice.
just so grateful. My health has improved. My mental health has improved. My community has improved. And I'm pretty fortunate woman, very, very grateful for all the gifts that I've been given.
That's amazing. I think it's exciting that you've gotten this blossoming in your exposure to share what you've learned and experience and continue to experience. And I wanted to tell you too, I loved your analogy about the daisy. Daisies are one of my favorite flowers. And
Interesting.
yeah. And so but I love that that's a simple way to categorize it to make it digestible. So
Hmm.
that's a perfect analogy.
Hmm. Oh,
Definitely.
I could just say a Venn diagram, but I thought the daisy looks kind of nicer. And so you can just imagine the big
Yes.
ship just sort of nestled. So the image on the cover of my book, whoops,
Mhm.
everything's backwards when I
Yeah,
point,
that's okay.
is of the big ship sitting in the flower of life, which
Nice.
represents, that interdimensional envelope where it sits. So people say, "Oh, don't you miss it? Don't you want to go back?" And I say, yes and no. I have a mission. I'm only here for a while. I'm almost
Right.
a couple of weeks. I'll be 70 years old. I don't know how long I'm here. I don't plan on going anywhere. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
I love my mission. I feel really good about what I'm doing, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. So I'm really grateful to people like you, Holly, who have me on your programs to talk about what has happened, and to assure people it's not scary, it's not horrible. I know people have had horrible experiences. I don't want to disregard that or downplay that. But I'm just saying that this is what happened for me, and
Right.
um, and I want people to know about it. I also have one of my spiritual mentors is the guy. Well, he looks like a guy. Well, he is sort of a guy, but anyway, he's my only what I would call stereotypical gray contact.
Okay.
And I call him Bob the Gray, and he doesn't mind. They're not in. Like, you don't have to worry about offending,
Right.
these higher beings. They're so beautiful and so accepting. But he often dresses up, and he wears like black slacks, a black turtleneck sweater, and a black fedora, and it makes me laugh. And he's got a
Right.
great sense of humor.
Right.
So, they're not all the same. Some
Right.
have terrific senses of humor, and all different kinds of personalities. And yeah, it's really great.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Thanks.
So what is your goal for this year? What are you aiming at? What are you working on?
Well, I would love to grow my YouTube and my Rumble channels. I've been at this quite a while. It took me 5 years to get 54 subscribers, but I was not producing content with any consistency at that point. And then in the last 5 years, I've gained 2,000 more subscribers. Now, it's not all about the subscribers, but it is for me about the community. So
Sure.
I got StreamYard. I started live streaming. I started inviting people into the live chat, include the people in the live chat on the screen, their comments if they're related to what we're talking about. And I just love them, and they love me, and they love each other. And it's such a positive chat. So I want to continue building community. I want to be a safe harbor for people that have experienced the weird and the wonderful. I'd like to get started on another book. I would like to blend more of my ET experiences as I've described in Transdimensional Meet the New Neighbors, but I'd like to also put more of my life, what I went through, what I've dealt with, and how I found my way out, because solutions are like really, really important, right? So that's sort of what I want to do. I just want to keep talking about what I'm doing and keep doing what I'm doing. And then, there's another layer of this you don't see, and that is me taking really good care of my health, getting enough sleep, being super careful what I eat. I'm no longer addicted to carbs and crap and all that anymore. In fact, when I look at it in the grocery store, it kind of repels me. It's like, oh my God, I would never eat that when I could eat this instead. Do you know what I mean? So instead
Sure.
of looking at it as deprivation, I see it as really a blessing that I get to eat, the most amazing, delicious foods. But it also means that as I keep practicing love as I understand it, which includes patience and all those other things. But you know what? We got to turn that towards self first. Once we get some mastery over it, then we turn it towards our children, our grown children, our parents. We may or may not want to deal with our cousins, mostly me, no, but our neighbors, and it spreads out into the community, and we become the change we want to see in this world.
Right.
This is so practical, and
Yes.
it's so important, and it's not easy, though. That's probably why a lot of people don't quit carbs, and I mean refined carbs, and that's probably why a lot of people don't do shadow work, but you got to do it,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to do it. It's like cleaning out between your toes. You got to do it every once in a while. Not fun, but you got to do it. And then all our relationships start to change. And it doesn't mean they start believing what I believe or thinking like me, but it's just it sends out such a positive vibe. Other people are attracted to it, and they'll either be repelled or they'll be attracted. And so
Right.
this is my small act to help bring about lasting change on planet Earth. So that's sort of my mission, and that's my goal. And besides that, people often think if we had more money, we'd be happier. But, the truth of the matter is with money comes complications.
Yeah.
Say you can buy some things you couldn't afford before, but now you got to insure them, make time to use them, clean them, take care of them, maintain them, worry about whether someone's going to take it away from you or steal it or ruin it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so getting back to basics for me is just easier. And I have 2 cats who I love dearly, and they're my furry babies. They're totally spoiled. But interestingly, I have learned to communicate with them. And I realize, especially one of my cats, but both actually are telepathic, and I can communicate with them. But it means staying really calm and grounded inside. So there's that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I have absolutely had a blast with you, Karen, and we're going to have to continue this because there's lots
Yes,
more
please.
that we need to share. And definitely for everyone listening and watching, please check her out on YouTube. It's Karen Holton, KarenHolton, and she
TV.
has a TV. And
That's my brand. Sorry, that's my brand.
no, that's fair.
You need to
That's
put
fair.
the TV. Otherwise, you get all these other Karen Holtons in the world that aren't me, right?
Gotcha. And then I've been running a ticker tape at the bottom of this
Thank you.
that's for your .com. So she has a www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com where you can reach out to her and contact her.
Yeah, I'm a
So
different kind of health coach. I deal with the person's energetic, spiritual, not religious, but all aspects of their reality. I also have a free program. It's called the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation. I got it in a download. Took me years to get it all organized into a cohesive 9-step program, and it teaches people how to open their minds, how to do shadow work, how to take advantage of technologies we don't even realize are technologies, like crystals and being outside with bare feet. It teaches you how to balance your male female energies. That's the first 3. The middle 3 lessons are all detoxification, how to detoxify, from realize what's in our cleaning products, our toothpaste, our
right.
everything that is contact with our body. And I give very inexpensive recipes for making your own very inexpensive products that can replace the toxic ones. I get into food. What is food? What's not food? Different ways of looking at food and eating, and there's not any one way of eating for the whole world.
Right.
It depends on our ancestry, our genetics,
Right.
and then how to detoxify from the construct that we're born and programmed into. And then the last three lessons, you do the first three, the middle three, and then the last three lessons teach you how to manifest much faster and in a more meaningful way, how to ask for things so that we get more of what we want, less of what we don't want. Because there's that saying, be careful what you ask for, you just might
True.
get it, right?
Yep.
And spiritual exercises. And so the very last chapter or section is on how to learn to love yourself and other people. So I get into, kindness and mildness. What does that actually do for you? What does
Sure.
that do for other people? And how can we practice that? And it becomes a kind of a devotional practice in a way. But I'm not very much into religion. I'm kind of done with that now. I'm not saying it's wrong. If it's doing it for your listeners and viewers, that's awesome. But, it's not always necessary. And I could go on and on, but I think I'll just
Well,
leave
no,
it there.
I appreciate what you're saying entirely. And I think my wish for humanity is for all the people that are hurting, that are denying themselves love because they got hurt, maybe many times. They're not living, they're existing, they're
Yep.
minus love. And if we
Yep.
can add love and then give plus love, extra love, more love to share with others with your kindness and your words, that's the biggest gift you could give anybody, because that gives them peace of mind and it helps them function and cycle through their life in a much happier way, a much more clairsentient way, that you're able to connect with others on a completely different level. More than that, even to give you peace of mind. When we feel loved and accepted, we're much happier campers. We're much nicer to be around.
Oh,
Definitely.
absolutely. Same as when we feel physically well, we
Oh,
have so
yeah.
much more to give too.
Yes.
So but learning to love ourselves, and for all the people who've been victims of abuse and
Right.
trauma and all of that, there is a way out. And
Yeah.
but it's kind of like we learn how to transmute it
Right.
through self-love,
Right.
in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, we're definitely going to have to talk some more when we're done here. But from everyone in Holly's Pandorium group, thank you for staying with us today. Thank you for hanging out and listening to this information, some of which may have been very new to you for the first time. May need to watch this again just to get through it all and understand it a little better. But I encourage you all to check out her book and her YouTube page. And I want to say thank you again, Karen, for coming on. This has been a delight, and I'll look forward to the next time we get to chat. This is
Thank you.
Holly from Holly's Pandorium saying thank you, and I'll see you again later. And as my friend Jay likes to remind me, please remember to hit the like and subscribe button. It only takes a split second. I know you got your remote nearby, guys. Just click the like button for me and share if you can. Other people might want to see this, and it's good to have stuff that we can all sink our teeth into and get some hope for. So this is Holly saying thank you, and I'll see you guys again soon.